He wasn't the kind of person who rushed headlong into trouble or made wild declarations that turned into viral vids. He was more the quiet type, the guy who fixed broken things without being asked, who held onto his emotions like delicate circuitry, carefully soldered and stored away. But boarding the Deep Hauler Solstice Bridge had taken more than bravery. It had taken all of his savings, 4 years of preparation, 2 recommendation letters from former professors, and 1 extremely awkward emotional goodbye to his dog, Lilo. And now here he was, eyes wide, breath caught, floating gently toward the glowing interior of Astria's Hall, the most diverse learning institution in the known galaxy. "You seeing this?" his friend Trin Yamada whispered from beside him, their voice hushed with awe. They drifted closer in the 0G vestibule, their shoulder bumping his with the lightness of a falling leaf. "Yeah," Noel said, barely audible. "I'm seeing it." Astria's Hall stretched before them like a silver dream stitched into the stars, its curved corridors pulsed with bioluminescence, and its inner structures floated in concentric circles like blooming flowers made of glass and motion. There was no gravity in this section, not yet. The vestibule was designed to simulate transit between gravity wells, one last test, he figured, before the station decided if they could handle orbital life. The welcome signage flickered between languages, including English, in soft gold letters. "Interstellar learning begins where gravity ends." The words made Noel's chest tighten. For a moment, he thought of Lilo, her paws on his shoulders as she jumped up for a kiss. The way she had barked and whined when he'd zipped his luggage. She hadn't understood. How could she? All she knew was that her person was leaving, and the world without him was wrong. The memory stuck to his ribs. "You all right?" Trin asked, voice gentler now. "Yeah," he lied. "You're thinking about her," they guessed. He nodded. "She'll be okay," Trin said, looping their arm around his shoulder and steering them gently toward the docking gate. "Your sister loves that dog like she's her own. And besides, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. We're going to study alien tech, Noel. Actual alien tech. And maybe flirt with some beings who think humans are exotic." "I'm not here to flirt," Noel mumbled, cheeks heating. "Oh, you will be," Trin said, eyes twinkling. "Give it a week." The docking tunnel shimmered into motion, cycling them through a slow gravity ramp-up. It felt like stepping into a dream, first weightless, then floating, then grounded, though not quite solid. The artificial gravity on Astrius wasn't constant. It shifted gently depending on species accommodations. The arrival hub buzzed with motion, students of every shape and hue moved in organized chaos. Some walked upright, others skittered or slithered, and more than a few floated midair in glowing support harnesses. Languages spiraled around them, translated in real time through bio-embedded translation chips. Noel reached instinctively for Trin's hand. They squeezed once before letting go. "This way," a voice called, melodic and crisp. A tall being approached, encased in what looked like translucent layers of flowing fabric. Their body shimmered like liquid stone, with crystalline eyes that reflected the station's glow. "You are Noel Martinez and Trin Yamada?" they asked. "Yes," Noel replied. "I am Virai," the being said. "Your student liaison and social acclimation guide." They gestured smoothly. "You have been assigned to Residence Cluster Delta 7. I will escort you now." "Thank you," Trin said, ever the diplomat. They walked through wide passageways that curved and bent like organic arteries, the walls pulsing faintly with ambient light. Signs appeared in the air as they passed, directing them to orientation spaces, common study halls, nutrient dispensaries, and more. "Please be aware," Virai added, "that you will be sharing your residential unit with 2 other species. Initial communication may require emotional calibration. Please report any synchronization errors to the liaison node." Noel blinked. "Emotional calibration. Many species express emotion differently," Virai explained. "In some cultures, baring teeth is an act of hostility. In others, prolonged eye contact implies courtship. The systems will assist. Trin elbowed him. So try not to smile like a maniac. Noel flushed. And try not to cry during sad movies, he muttered back. The doors to Residence Cluster Delta 7 slid open with a soft chime. The common space was vast, designed to accommodate multiple physiologies. Seating options ranged from hovering discs to bean-like floor cushions. Translucent partitions allowed privacy without total isolation, and the air had a fresh, slightly floral scent, a detail that surprised Noel. Virai stepped aside. I will allow you to introduce yourselves. If you require translation buffer enhancements, they are available through your interface nodes. Your roommates are already present. And just like that, they were gone. A faint ripple of sound echoed through the space, a liquid-like voice humming just at the edge of comprehension. They're here, came the translation overlay. From one side of the room, a figure glided forward. They were encased in a suit of light armor, not for combat, but for containment. Their form was fluid, almost jellyfish-like, but vaguely humanoid. Within their watery frame, something glowed softly, a pulsing core of bioluminescent emotion. Greetings, the voice echoed. I am Keelan of Tidebond Pools. Noel bowed slightly, unsure of the proper etiquette. Hi, he said. I'm Noel. This is Trin. I sense sorrow, Keelan said gently. Trin cleared their throat. We just left some good people behind. And a very good dog. A companion? Keelan asked. Yeah, Noel replied. Her name's Lilo. The room shifted. There was a pause, not of misunderstanding, but something like consideration. Before Noel could explain, the second roommate entered. They moved like wind wrapped in feathers, tall, narrow-shouldered, with long limbs and silvery blue plumage folded against their back. Their face was sharp, eyes pale gold and unreadable. I am Mivai of Kelthara, they said, voice smooth and distant. I study emotional resonance. I observe without interference. Noel nodded awkwardly. I'm not sure what to say to that. Then do not say anything, Mivai replied. Silence is not empty. It is preparation. Trin muttered under their breath. Great. A poet. Wanting to break the ice, Noel pulled out his holodevice and activated a floating image of Lilo. The dog appeared mid-air, tail wagging, tongue lolling, rolling on the floor in a captured video. This is her, he said, voice softer now. This is Lilo. Keelan pulsed, literally. A shimmer moved through their body. What, is she? Keelan asked. A dog, Noel said. Canis familiaris. We've lived with them for thousands of years. You share space, with a predator, Mivai's voice sharpened slightly. Trin rolled their eyes. It's not like that. Is she dangerous? Keelan asked. Only to chew toys, Noel said, smiling. She sleeps on my bed. She likes belly rubs. Mivai stared at the image of Lilo for a long time. You are not warriors, they said. But you tame the wild. This explains much. Explains what? Noel asked. But Mivai didn't answer. Mivai did not dream, at least not in the way humans did. On Kelthara, dreams were curated, harvested from collective emotion gardens and filtered through clouds of somnivale pollen. To dream alone was considered dangerous. Selfish, even. Emotions, like water or air, were meant to be shared. And yet, Mivai woke from sleep with the unfamiliar ache of private emotion. It coiled behind his ribs like fog and clung to his feathers like static. It was the human. The one with soft eyes and quiet sadness. The one who had shown them, Lilo. Mivai sat up in the dim chamber of his dormitory pod, wings folded tightly around his frame. The ambient lights read his restlessness and brightened to a soft twilight hue. He exhaled slowly, counting the breath pulses as taught in his discipline, 1 to center, 2 to release, 3 to remain detached. But it didn't work. Noelle's voice still echoed in his memory. She sleeps on my bed. She likes belly rubs. She's family. How could a creature bred from teeth and hunger become a symbol of care? How could Noelle, quiet, unguarded Noelle, love something so dangerous, and be loved in return? The answer disturbed Mivai more than the question. On Kelthera, affection was ceremony. One did not fall into it like clumsy humans claimed to. It was composed, like a sonata. Each gesture meant something. Each silence, a space for permission. And this boy, this human, carried his feelings on his skin, unshielded. Raw. And for some reason, Mivai could not look away. He tried to distract himself in the following days. He spent extra hours at the Emotional Resonance Lab, analyzing recorded tensions from interspecies debates. He submitted 2 essays on the structure of presentient grief reactions. He attended a lecture on empathy triggers among macroorganic swarms, and even raised a talon when the instructor misattributed the pain mirroring effect in the jellyform clusters. But it wasn't enough. When he closed his eyes, he saw a flash of Noelle's face, that brief smile, full of loss. The flicker of hope when Lilo rolled onto her side. The curve of his lips when he said, "I miss her every day." Stop, Mivai told himself. It is not proper. This is infatuation. Proximity. Curiosity, nothing more. And yet, he found himself moving through the station with uncharacteristic aimlessness, pausing in corridors where he knew Noelle studied. Timing his nutrient breaks to coincide with his. Watching. He hated how obvious he was being. Worse, he hated how much he didn't care. The invitation came in the form of a folded pulse note left near Noelle's seat during ethics class, a traditional Kelthran communication method. Noelle picked it up, brow furrowed. The note said. Mothlight Garden. Second spiral. Dusk. Come alone. M. Noelle looked around, puzzled, but he didn't say anything. Mivai sat 2 rows behind him, wings folded tightly, pulse racing. Noelle arrived just before dusk. He wore a simple hoodie, dark blue, sleeves pushed up to his elbows. His hair was a little messy, like he'd been nervous about being late. His steps slowed as he approached the gated archway that shimmered at the entrance to the Mothlight Garden. Hello, he called out. Step through, Mivai's voice said softly, from the inner terrace. The garden was unlike anything else on Astrius. Glowing moths drifted lazily through the air, drawn to tall glass flowers that pulsed with memory light. The air smelled faintly of wind and something sharp, perhaps citrus. This place is beautiful, Noelle whispered. It is sacred, Mivai replied, stepping from the shadows. On Kelthera, only 2 types of meetings happen in the Mothlight. Forgiveness, or confession. Noelle blinked. Oh. Which one is this? Mivai didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked slowly to one of the petal lamps and touched its core. The light shimmered, showing a brief echo, an emotion recording, of 2 Kelthrans brushing wingtips. It lingered in the air like perfume, bittersweet and reverent. I did not understand you, Mivai said finally. Not at first. Noelle walked closer, cautious. Because of Lilo? Yes. And no. You thought she was dangerous. I still do, Mivai said, turning. But not to you. And that distinction, he faltered, changed something. Noelle sat on the low bench near the center, palms resting on his knees. The silence stretched between them. I didn't mean to scare anyone, he said. I miss her. Showing people helps. Mivai stared at him. You share pain, openly. That is not a concept I have words for. Where I come from, sorrow is, private. Stored. Curated. But that's not how feelings work, Noel replied gently. You don't get to choose the shape they take. Sometimes they leak out. You make it sound like art, Mivai murmured. Maybe it is, Noel said, shrugging. Or maybe it's just being human. Another silence. Then Mivai stepped forward, slow, deliberate. His feathers shivered slightly as he reached into his side pouch and retrieved a small, crystalline sphere. He held it out. What is it? Noel asked. A bloom seed, Mivai replied. It forms only when a Keltherin experiences unresolved emotional convergence. Noel stared blankly. Sorry. Still learning alien metaphors. Mivai took a breath. It means, you made me feel something that doesn't fit my teachings. He looked down. I was taught to classify emotion, not to be surprised by it. But you, your grief, your gentleness, your joy, you bend categories. The seed glowed softly in his palm, its edges refracting like dew. What do you want me to do with it? Noel asked. I don't know, Mivai whispered. And that was the truth of it. They stood in silence for a while. Eventually, Noel sat back down and patted the bench beside him. Mivai hesitated, then sat. Their wings brushed. Neither of them moved. You know, Noel said softly, I never expected to fall for anyone out here. Mivai went very still. I mean, Noel rushed, not saying that's what's happening. Or maybe I am. I don't know. I just, when you first spoke to me, I thought you were cold. But now I realize, you just have a different language. Mivai tilted his head. And you've been, learning it? Noel smiled. Maybe I'm a good listener. Mivai looked away, feathers flaring slightly. You're more than that. As the moth light faded into evening, the two remained there, unsure of what this meant, or what came next. But something had started between them. Something quiet, hesitant, and real. And for the first time in Mivai's life, he did not want to analyze it. He simply wanted to feel it. Trin Yamada knew how to read a room. Especially when that room happened to be filled with 23 species, some with feathers, some with scales, and at least one that communicated entirely through changes in body temperature and scent pulses. They were a musician by nature, an ethnographer by training, and a chaos enthusiast by reputation. And right now, they were certain of one thing. Things were getting weird around Astria's Hall. It had started small. Strange looks in the corridors. Whispered conversations that died the moment a human approached. A second year from the methane breathers had outright fled the elevator when Trin entered with a picture of their cat displayed on their holopad. That alone might have been dismissible, just cultural misunderstanding. But then there was the quiet, wide-eyed reverence with which some of the others started treating Noel. Is it true, a floating leaf-like being had asked them earlier that day, that your species walks among predators unafraid? That you feed them, to keep them loyal? Trin had snorted. You're talking about our pets, right? The being had only nodded solemnly. Which is why Trin decided it was time to get proactive. And maybe meddle a little. We're throwing a music night, they announced during the shared meal block, slamming their tray down beside Noel and Keelan in the dining commons. Cross-cultural, full-spectrum, emotionally resonant. A what? Noel asked, chewing on what he assumed was the closest thing this station had to pasta. A musical showcase, Trin explained. Sound. Vibration. Expression. Species from all across the hall perform something traditional, emotional, or personal. I already registered our slot. Keelan pulsed gently, voice soft. Will this assist in realignment of interspecies perception? Hopefully, Trin said. Right now, a good chunk of this station thinks we live in daily terror of our furry housemates. We need to show them what it actually means. Noel hesitated. But how do you explain a pet with a song? You don't, Trin said. You show them what it feels like. They leaned in, grinning. And you, my friend, are going to sing. Noel nearly choked. I haven't sung in front of people since ever, Noel said later that night, pacing their dormitory pod while Mavai looked on, wings folded and unreadable as ever. You sing to Lilo, Mavai pointed out softly. That's different, Noel said. She can't judge me. Also, she barks along and it somehow makes me sound better. Mavai tilted their head. Then perhaps you are not singing for approval. But simply to be heard. Noel groaned. You're doing the emotional logic thing again. And you are resisting vulnerability, Mavai said calmly. It is not weakness, Noel. It is resonance. It is what drew me to you. Noel froze. Mavai blinked. I said that out loud, didn't I? Yup, Noel said, voice very quiet. And then he smiled. Mavai looked away, feathers puffing slightly. Music night came faster than Noel expected. Trin had gone full production mode, rigging ambient lights from borrowed engineering tech, stringing translator overlays into the sound system, and running dry runs with the performers. The event was set in the Terra Dome, an amphitheater that adjusted its acoustics and air density to accommodate multiple species. Students gathered by the hundreds. Floating beings perched on air cushions. Root walkers extended their vines to tap along. A trio of crystalline entities glittered along the back row, refracting the light into soft rainbows. Trin stepped up first, grabbing the universal mic. Thank you all for being here, they said, voice projected in smooth, neutral tones. This night isn't just about music. It's about emotion. About memory. About what ties us to each other, and what might untie us, if we don't learn to listen. They nodded toward Noel. This is my friend. He's going to share something from Earth. Something that, to us, is ordinary. But to you, might feel alien. And that's okay. Noel stepped into the light. He felt naked. He felt watched. But then he took a breath and closed his eyes. This song, he said, is one I used to sing to my dog. Lilo. She's back home. But I feel her here, sometimes. In the quiet. In the ache. The dome went silent. And he began. The melody was simple, a lullaby, really. One his grandmother had taught him. Spanish words woven into a soft hum of grief and love. He sang it gently, barely more than a whisper, but the translation system turned it into tones and patterns for the others. And when he sang the line about watching over a loved one's sleep, duerme, mi estrella, something shifted in the room. A low moan from the crystal entities. A flickering glow from Keelan's center. A visible tremor across the pollen dancers. Even Mavai, standing in the shadows, felt their heart flutter. The feeling was soft, but insistent, like the first wind before a storm. And when Noel finished, there was no applause. Just silence. A heavy, beautiful silence. I think it worked, Trin said afterward, bouncing on their heels as the crowd began to drift out in quiet contemplation. I was terrified, Noel said. And perfect, Mavai said quietly, stepping up beside him. You bared your soul. You made them feel. You made me feel. Noel turned, face warm. Yeah. Mavai hesitated. And then, gently, touched the back of Noel's hand. Not a handshake. Not a ritual. Just contact. Noel didn't pull away. He didn't say anything either. But he smiled. And Mavai smiled back. They didn't see the station observer in the back, a dry-skinned administrator from the Bureau of Intercultural Conduct, who scribbled something urgent into their records. Emotional breach observed. Code Orange, cross-affectional contact initiated between species. Risk, romantic entanglement. Monitor closely. Keelan floated in silence, the stillness of their nutrient pool disturbed only by the gentle ripples of thought. The pool was their sanctuary, a pressurized dome designed to mimic the waters of Tidebond, their homeworld. Here, they could let their containment shell dissolve. Here, they could feel. Tonight, however, the water felt different. Not just temperature or current, but tension. It threaded through the molecules, vibrating with something heavy. Noel's voice echoed in Keelan's memory, his song from Terradome still drifting through their fluid consciousness like a current that would not settle. Grief, joy, longing. Emotion so strong they resisted translation. So human. So raw. And for the first time since arriving at Astrius Hall, Keelan realized something important. They had never felt alone in the water, until now. Hours earlier, after the music night, Keelan had sensed the shift. Students of all species had responded to Noel's performance with reverent silence. Even the Wavekin, who usually required coordinated rhythmic patterns to feel emotional resonance, had mirrored the tones of Noel's lullaby using their body fins. The humans weren't feared anymore. They were worshipped. And that frightened the wrong people. Keelan knew what would come next. Not from instinct, but from logic. They had studied xenopolitics as a secondary discipline. They had seen what happened when power structures shifted too fast. Sure enough, the next day, a discreet invitation arrived at their data node. Confidential request, Administrative Oversight Division. Subject, Human Influence and Emotional Conditioning. Location, Farside Annex Time, 2000 Station Pulse. It wasn't a request. It was a summons. And Keelan was the only one who could tell the truth. Because they had felt it. The far side of Astrius Hall was rarely visited by students. It was a maintenance ring, wrapped in alloy and lined with transparent domes looking out into cold, unfiltered starlight. Here, Keelan met with the oversight delegate, a dry, dust-skinned being from the Oversight Bureau, name withheld by protocol. You've shared housing with the humans, they began. You've witnessed their emotional projections firsthand. Keelan pulsed with caution. I have. They are intense. Some say they are manipulating the student body, the delegate said coldly. Using sentimental displays to bypass traditional boundaries. No, Keelan said firmly. They are sharing, not manipulating. The delegate didn't react. You attended the recent musical gathering? Keelan nodded. Describe your experience. Keelan paused. Then, slowly, they reached into their fluid MEM chamber and extracted a memory echo. A glowing sphere formed in their upper limb, Noel's voice preserved as it had felt to them in real time. They activated it. The sound wasn't music in the traditional sense, not for beings like the delegate. But it resonated through the space, triggering emotional ripples that even the driest species couldn't fully suppress. The delegate stiffened. What is this sensation? Grief, Keelan said. And love. And hope. They are all tangled. And genuine. Dangerous, the delegate corrected. Keelan tilted their gaze. To who? Back in their dormitory pod, Keelan pulsed restlessly, their containment gels swirling faster than usual. Noel was asleep. Mivai sat near him, awake, staring into nothing, their wings folded, unreadable. Keelan watched them both and realized something. They were falling for each other. And neither had a clue what that would cost. The next morning, Keelan made a decision. They activated the Cultural Archive node and submitted a new entry. Emotional Translation Artifact, K9 Human Bond, Case Study. They attached their own memory echo recordings, snippets of Noel laughing with Lilo, captured from Holos, from recollections, from the subtle emotional shifts they'd picked up in conversation. They rendered them as a visible sculpture, a floating helix of sound and warmth and sorrow, swirling gently for all to see. It became the most viewed archive entry in the station within hours. When Mivai returned to the dorm that evening, they were changed. Quieter. Tenser. Their feathers drooped. Noel looked up from his tablet. You okay? Mivai didn't answer right away. They just stared at him. Long and hard. Then, suddenly. Come with me. Where? Noel asked. To the far side, Mivai said. Now. Noel hesitated. Then stood. Okay. They walked in silence. The corridors dimmed as they moved deeper into the station's quieter ring, where the maintenance lights glowed like distant stars and the gravity shimmered in low pulses. Finally, they reached the outermost viewing dome, a vast transparent shell stretching into the vacuum beyond. Nebulae drifted like smoke. A planet rotated slowly in the distance, its rings glowing pale silver. Mivai walked to the edge and stood with their hands behind their back. Noel stayed a few steps behind. This is where Keltherans make soul declarations, Mivai said quietly. This is where we confess. Noel's heart skipped. Confess what? Mivai turned. Their voice trembled. That I am afraid, they said. Of you. Of what I feel for you. Of how easily your kindness undoes everything I was taught to believe. They took a step forward. On my world, affection is not spontaneous. It is structured. Chosen through ritual. And yet, when you look at me, it feels like gravity, like falling in a direction I cannot control. Noel's voice was barely audible. I feel it too. Mivai's eyes widened. You do. Since the moth-light garden, Noel said. Maybe before. I don't know. I just know, you make things quieter in here. He tapped his chest. And louder too. Mivai stepped closer. Then, this is a confession. Noel smiled softly. Yes. They stood inches apart now. Mivai extended one hand, trembling, and Noel reached to meet it. Fingers touched feathers. And something bloomed. A soft pulse of color, not visible to humans, but radiant to Mivai, a swirl of gold and green in Noel's aura. Sincerity. Affection. Safety. Mivai gasped. You're resonating. Is that good? Noel asked. Mivai smiled. It means we're compatible. Noel laughed nervously. Wow. Should we do something about it? Mivai leaned forward. Forehead to forehead. Just a touch. Noel closed his eyes. And in that moment, under a billion stars, no one said a word. But everything was understood.